Hi guys, welcome back to another cinematic mic review. Today I'm doing Antoine Fuqua's The Guilty. It's a Netflix film that came out about a month ago. I would say a few weeks ago or a month ago. I think so. It stars Jake Gyllenhaal as a cop who's actually working in the call center where the 911 calls go to. And someone calls him for an emergency, which turns out that this woman may be abducted by her husband and he has to try to help her to try to save her from any harm that might come to her as the story progresses. So I was bored at home. I put this film on. I was looking because I had said I did my Raging Fire review in my unboxing and I wasn't satisfied and all that. But I had said in the video, one of them, either the Raging Fire review or the unboxing, how when I saw the trailer to it, I was looking at other trailers of films, foreign films from Korea and Hong Kong and all that. And there's one that caught my attention, which was a Korean film. So I looked it up because I didn't know what it was called, and I think it was called Hard Hit. I think it's called Hard Hit. But I couldn't find it anywhere, and I think it might be coming on DVD or Blu-ray probably next month. And then I came across another one too, which is with one of my favorite actors who's from New World. Is Hwang. I forgot his last name. Hwang, I think something. And I think he's a very famous actor from Korea, and he is a great actor. I the reason I got New World is probably because of him, his acting and all that in that film. His character is probably like one of my favorite characters of the film. And I might have seen one. Oh, I think he was in another great film by one of my favorite writers, directors. I think Nong Hong Jing, who did I think what's what's it called? The Chaser, and The Wailing and The Yellow Sea. I think he was Huang was in what was it called? The Wailing. I think he was in The Wailing. And he's a great actor, I think. But I saw this trailer to this film too, also like a month ago when I saw the other ones, and I thought it was kind of a little cheesy concept, and I was like, what the hell? That sounds like a little Bollywood type of thing. It was just like, I don't know, it just felt kind of out of place, and I'm like, oh, you guys go that way too, and it's about him, and he's starring as himself as the celebrity. He's starring as himself, and he gets kidnapped or held hostage, and there's a ransom going on for him. And so I was like, oh, what the hell? You're gonna play yourself? And the trailer's all like going with it, famous actor and naming his real name, is kidnapped and whatever. And I was trying to look for that one too, because the reason I wasn't gonna watch it because of the trailer and the concept, and I got there when I looked up some little reviews, I saw that it had some, from where I read, it said that it was actually a good movie. It was actually good, so I kind of wanted to see that one too, but I couldn't find it. I don't know if they get the Rotten Tomatoes of treatment over there. I'm not sure if they have their own type of little Rotten Tomatoes over there in the foreign countries, the other side, Korea or Hong Kong and all that, all these different places. I'm not sure if they have their own bit. Sometimes they do. I see that they do. But I couldn't find any like Rotten Tomato reviews on this and on these films. So I had nothing to watch, and I think I was looking for this one on Netflix, and then I think I was on Just Watch to look up what was playing on Netflix, and I think I was trying to see if it was on there. And then The Guilty popped up, and I'm like, oh, I remember I saw the trailer to The Guilty. I got interested in it when I saw Antoine Fuqua. I think I knew, or I'm not sure I didn't. And Jake Gyllenhaal's in it, and then him like with the headset and all that. And then I saw the trailer to it, and I'm like, oh, it seems like some similar thing that we've already seen, that I've seen so many times already here in America. We've seen it many times already, that story. And then what really made me decide, you know what, I'm not going to watch this, when I read about it and I found out that it was a remake of a Danish film. And I was just like, oh, I'm not going to watch it. Because over here in America, when they do the remakes of original films, it never comes out well. Like, there are some times where it does come out well. I have some films I think that are remakes and they're actually good. I think I like The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I like the original one, and I like the David Fincher one a lot. Both of them are good in their own way. I think I don't think I prefer one over the other. I think they're just good in their own way. I'm not sure if I saw one called Let the Right One In. I think one time I liked the American version. I think I might have seen the foreign one. I'm not sure if I haven't or not. But there are some movies out there that are remakes, and sometimes they do come out well, but most of the times they don't. They American remakes are kind of like, you already know, it's like, no, it's not gonna work out. So yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal plays the character of Joe Baylor. Yeah, as I said, he's a cop in like a little call center where he gets the 911 calls. What's your and he answers what's your emergency and all that. And the opening's kind of cool because you get introduced to this character. He's in the restroom and he has an inhaler. He can't breathe. He's like coughing a lot. So you're kind of giving your character a flaw there already, which kind of makes it a little bit interesting. And even later in the film too, or not later, like just a little bit after this, he ends up taking like I don't know what it is, an Advil or something. He drops it in the cup and it's dissolving, and this helps out too with the character. He's probably has a headache or something's hurting him where he needs to take this medication or just to calm down. And these little things kind of help out with kind of having some little sympathy or relating with the character. I could relate to that because right now I'm having a lot of health issues and I'm going to work. I just started a job and all that, and I've been going to work in pain, and it's hard because I'm not comfortable and I have to take this. So it kind of lets me feel a little bit related to him, not all the way, but I can tell where they're going. It's not a comfortable day for him, and he's going through all of this stuff. One thing I really like about this film is how complicated it gets for this character in certain moments. There's the beginning of near the beginning of the film, I think he calls his wife or his ex-wife, and he's just calling her to say like, hey, I want to say goodnight to my daughter and all that. She doesn't pick up, and then he goes back to where his desk and all that. And this is when the situation, the actual story is starting to go. Some woman calls and she sounds like she's been abducted, and he gets all worried about it, and he's really stuck on the phone with her. At that exact moment that this is going on and all this intensity is going on, the phone rings, and it's his ex-wife calling him back. And there's a situation where he's like kind of stuck, like, oh damn, I need to help this person, and then she's calling me back and I want to talk to her, but he's like, it's just a struggle. And I really like that when you throw those situations in movies where it's just complicated, and it makes it more interesting. And I was getting a little bit hooked at that point. That doesn't happen right away. I think he makes some few calls at the beginning, which are really funny. First, it starts off with some few calls. I think there's one where a guy's like complaining that he's been robbed by a woman, and I think Joe Baylor figures it out that it's probably a prostitute, a hooker, or whatever. And then there's another guy. Who's the other guy that calls? There's another guy that calls. Or is it a woman? Someone else calls too. I just can't remember who. There's like two calls at the beginning. There's that one, and then there's another one. But it's really fun. Oh, there's a guy that's talking about like I think he's really scared, and this one sounds serious. Sounds like something really going on. But then he picks it up and he's like, yeah, he like picks up on that this guy's on drugs or something. The guy tells him he did speed. And so yeah, and this guy just straight out tells him, he's like, well, that's your fault, isn't it? And I'm not sure that's the way these cops in these moments actually respond in that way. I mean, but yeah, I thought it was kind of, his character is kind of really rough. He's kind of really stiff, like just, I don't know, it's like a wall right there with him. He has an attitude. Some people try to talk to him and he just gives an attitude to them, and he blows up at moments. So yeah, one of the things I like is a little humor in this film. In this film, as I said, there takes place as this cop in the center where the 911 calls come to, and he tries to help people out. And when this situation, the main story happens where a woman has been abducted, it gets really serious. It didn't get me right away in here. I mean, I already kind of went in kind of like, okay, this is where it usually goes. It's kind of like a little cliche type of thing. The same thing I knew kind of Raging Fire already. I've seen that story. I've seen the story many times. I mean, because Hollywood, it's out there too in other places too, but I've seen it. It reminds me of the film The Call with Halle Berry. It reminds me of Cellular with Chris Evans. There are other ones that I've seen, and it's just a story that's been done already many times before. So I was like, okay, that's one of the reasons I stopped getting interested when it was about to come out. But oh yeah, the reason why I ended up choosing it too is because I saw the reviews and they said that it was decent. I think it had like a 75. So I was like, oh, well, it's a remake and it actually did kind of well. So I was like, well, then okay. I was like, I'll give it a shot. I was bored anyways. I'm like, but I kind of knew what I was getting into, but I'm like, maybe there is something good about it. Let me see it. It's a good little thriller type of thing. Maybe they changed it up a bit, or this one's really interesting. So I put it on and I decided to see it. So that's kind of what got me to watch it, and now doing the review on it. So when, yeah, the woman's, this whole situation with the woman being abducted, talking to him on the other end of the line and all that, and him trying to help her. What I like about it is that there's something where we use our imagination to think about, to see probably what's going on the other side, you know, because we're here on the location with him, and we never go out. There's only one moment where I think the camera goes out, where it's when when he tells these cops like it's a white van, and it shows the cop pull a white van over. But it's only in that scene. That's it. But the rest, you hear it on the headset, and you hear the yelling, you hear the noise, and then I think even just him when he's using the computer and it shows the highways and all that, I can make an imagination. Oh, it's a highway that looks like that, or it's like it looks like it might be an overpass of another highway. Then the information that's being given, the van is white, the license plate this, and all that stuff, the instructions that he's giving, you know, and all that stuff. I think there's something really fascinating about it, making us like just put it an imagination in our head instead of us seeing it. And it also seems like it's probably something that these people go through when they're doing this. They probably start having their own like imagination of what the house looks like, you know, because someone's telling them like what it looks like, what the car looks like, what the vehicle looks like, and all that. So I think there's something just kind of little interesting about that I really dig on, that type of thing where we use our own imagination to think about what's on the other end of the line, you know, and it kind of brings up this tension too. So, but I wasn't getting hooked all right away there, but I did appreciate that type of stuff. I also got this vibe from him because this character is kind of like a little bit crazy. Yeah, I mean, there's something that was interesting about him that's kind of crazy, but there's also something very funny. I mentioned how there's some little humor in here, which I enjoyed the humor because man, I laughed like five times, and it was like honest laugh. It wasn't something that was forced. It was just the way it was written, or the characters, the way the character is. And Joe Baylor is kind of like I said, he's rough and all that, and he gives attitude and just responds in a certain way. Just like with the speed guy, he tells him, he's like, "Isn't that, well, yeah, that's your fault, isn't it, for taking speed?" and all that. And then he cusses some people, or he just like, "What?" and all that, you know. He's just like has this attitude, and some people notice that he's just a grumpy person, you know. From that, I feel like maybe something with this situation, I feel like it's something, when I started to watch the film and I was kind of dissecting it, I felt like maybe this is something personal to him. Like maybe this whole thing is personal to him because of the way he acts. He blows up and he responds in certain ways, and things that come out of his mouth when he's talking to the person that abducted the girl and all that, the way he talked earlier to the guy on speed and all that. Like he says, "No, you should go to jail and you deserve it," and this and that. And then there's another guy that calls and he's like, "F you." And he's like, "Nah, F you." And the way he just talks, I'm like surprised that he actually responds that way. I'm in my head, I'm like, is he allowed to respond that way as a cop? And the other person on the other line, can he be doing that? Is that right or is that wrong? You know, but sometimes it's just funny the way he acts. They do it as a comedic way, but it's also saying like, you know, this guy's tough. And so I feel like it's kind of a little, it felt like it was something personal. And I'm all thinking, wait, did his kid get kidnapped before? Did his wife get kidnapped? Did something similar happen? Is that why his attitude is this way? And one thing that's pretty cool about the film is like with this attitude, this thing, the way he acts on impulse too, it feels like he's stuck in a place where he doesn't want to be. And he feels like with the situation that's going on, it feels like he can help. If he was out there, he would be more comfortable out there than being right here stuck. He feels like he's not getting all the help that he needs to go to solve this problem. And to me, he brings out this attitude that it seems it's easy. All we have to do is this and that and that. But it doesn't work that way. You know, he makes a few calls and even they're telling him, "No, I need the plates. No, we can't do that. You're not in charge of me," and this and that. You know, "Are you okay?" And he just seems really stuck here. The real tension starts building up. What got me hooked right away is when the daughter got on the phone. When he ends up talking to the daughter of the person that's abducted. I think it's because, you know, it's always a kid, and when it's a kid, you feel for the kid. You know, you're always gonna feel for the kid, and just like you get worried about the situation when you start hearing what's going on. You get more into it. The conversation that he has with the daughter, with the little girl, is just something that already got me hooked in there. It was at that point where it really got me into the film already right there. I'm like, oh yeah, not the beginning when the woman calls, no, because I already know that whole story. Okay, yes, this is the part where the woman calls. This is where our story starts. and he's gonna have to save her. She's abducted, and a whole what do you call it? Running against time or something like that. By the way, I think that's something I learned. That if you want to be a writer or make a movie and all that, you want to do. Sometimes the good ones are the ones where it has to do something with time. You know, where you're running out of time. Something like where you got to put a time on it. You know, something kind of saying like a bomb. You know, it's gonna explode in like 5 minutes. So you got to solve that problem in 5 minutes, and you know all that tension's gonna build up. You know, you got 5 minutes. So that's just a little advice there. So yeah, so I know that whole thing right there, but the daughter thing, it really got me hooked right there when he starts talking to her, and the conversation between them. Oh, as I said before, there's a scene with when this guy calls too, because I think it's already more in the film, farther in the film already, when we've seen a lot, heard a lot already. And there's a scene where this guy calls Joe, and then he's complaining about, I think he's getting attacked at the restaurant or something. And they ends up saying, like, they end up cussing each other out. One's like, fuck you. The other one's like, fuck you. And I'm like, damn, man, this guy's fucking crazy. The way he's responding to these people that are calling for his help and all that. And when I heard the voice, I'm like, hey, that voice sounds familiar. And, you know, it's one voice that anybody can recognize. And I'm like, that sounds exactly like Bill Burr. And I love Bill Burr. He's a great ass comedian. And I think he's a good actor too. But I was like, is that fucking Bill Burr in there? I'm like, I think that's Bill Burr. There's also this mystery that floats around, like the character, like of his background and all that. Like the whole thing with the conversation at the beginning with his wife calling, can I say goodnight to my daughters? Basically saying, okay, these people are divorced, probably something happened. Then there's a conversation where at the beginning of the film, where he ends up talking to one of his old bosses or whatever. And he's like, hey, how's Rick doing? And so you kind of don't think that this is just there to be there. You know, you have a feeling that Rick has a part to play in this a bit. And then he asks his wife too about Rick, and she answers too. So you know, this whole thing with Rick is something going on in the life that happened with Rick and him. And even at the very start of the film, a reporter actually calls him. That's where you get to know who he is, because he starts getting mad. He's like, straight out tells you, he's like, next time you answer the phone, let me know who you are right away and not at the end. Okay, and stop calling me. And she's just calling to like hear his story. But he's really like this character, man. He's really like tough, with this really hard attitude. But yeah, there's that mystery around it that's just floating in the air, like just like right there about what happened in the past, you know. And then the whole background thing, I kind of picked up on it. I think it was predictable for me. I kind of knew where it was going because of where I'm at and all that, and I knew what I had figured it out. I'm like, okay, I have a feeling I know what his background is and why he's stuck here and why he has like a little court date and all that. So I was like, yeah, but, you know, I have my own views on those type of things, and I couldn't really sympathize with them here. I wish they could have worked more for me to like sympathize with him. In a way, it seems like this whole thing of his background, of what was going on in his life and why he has to go to court the next day and all that, and his wife's divorce and all that. It feels like it was just something so little that it was just like kind of thrown in there just to be thrown in there, and not like something that was really worked out that well. And I think that's why I couldn't really sympathize. And plus, it being predictable for me, I was like, okay, yeah, I kind of figured out. And I was hoping it's something predictable, it kind of ruins it, because I'm like, okay, so if it's predictable for me, then, you know, I wish it would have been something like really surprising, but it wasn't. As the story goes on, you think you know this whole story. But dude, does this fucking story turn around? I was like, what the hell, man? I was like, what the fuck had just happened? And when you see it, I'm like, just like, fuck, dude. My eyes were just up, and I'm like, oh, fuck. And I'm just like, nah, you fucked up and all that. And I'm like, shit. And it was something I did not expect at all. That's something that I liked about the story. It's something that I did not expect at all. But I think it was a good way to tell like a story, like to do that. I'm like, damn, that seems like something that could have happened too, you know? And then it kind of makes it a little bit scary also. And I'm like, shit, man, this guy really has fucking problems. And he thought he was doing something, but in reality, he was doing something else. And that's the shit that sucks right there. So that twist is good. I like that whole twist thing too, this type of story that's going on here. It changes it up a little bit right there. One thing I do have to talk about is Jake Gyllenhaal's acting in this film. I love Jake Gyllenhaal. I've seen him since I was a kid. I think ever since I seen him in the Day After Tomorrow. I remember going to the theater to watch what's that movie called? I was gonna say Warhammer. Jarhead. Jarhead. I remember. I don't even know how I got in the theater, but I remember seeing that with my friend, and we were like kids at the time. But we got in the theater and we saw it in there, Jarhead and all that. And I've seen a lot of films with him, and I have, I think, a lot of films of his. And Antoine Fuqua, they did Southpaw together. Antoine Fuqua directed Southpaw, and Jake Gyllenhaal was the boxer in that. And that's one of the films that I really love. By Antoine Fuqua, I have Southpaw. It's an amazing story. Um, yeah, his acting. I looked at it and I'm like, come on, Jake. I'm like, I know you're a much better actor than this. But then again, I don't know if it was the directing, the camera, where the camera was. It wasn't just felt right. I don't know, but I felt like it wasn't bad. I can't say that freaking Jake Gyllenhaal's acting was bad, and he's a good actor either way. But I feel like he's more talented than he is in this film. I think. Um, I'm not sure, something was up with it, so I just had to bring that up and tell you, yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal. I don't know. For me, maybe for some others, he's still good in here. I mean, he is good, but not like, I feel like in some parts that had to be really like emotional and all that. He could have done better, more believable for me. But damn, there is some humor in here that just remembering. Like, I'm telling you, he's a really hard, tough guy. And then there's a scene where this woman just stares at him after he's like crying in one scene, and she's staring at him like in a way like, is this dude really crying? Like, we know him as a freaking, this guy actually has a heart. And I'm just like laughing there. So they had like some good humor in it, which I'm glad that it did. The movie was short though. It ended right away. Like, I was like, that's it? That's the whole movie? I'm like, and yeah, I was like, oh, okay, that's it. So yeah, it's kind of similar. I like the little twist to it. It's enjoyable. It's not perfection. But it's entertaining, I guess, in a way. I don't feel like really like dissatisfied. I actually feel a little bit satisfied, especially from what I got with Raging Fire. I feel satisfied here, at least a bit, that I took the time to watch this film, and it's all right to watch it. I really regret not watching the Danish film, the original one. And after watching this, I actually do want to watch it because I saw the reviews on it, and they have like a 94 on RT. And when I looked up the reviews on this again, they have like a 74 on this one, the American one. And then the audience score is like around 60, which is low. And I'm like, fuck, maybe I should have paid attention to the audience score too for this, but I didn't. And I'm like, shit, yeah, that's why. But I watched it because I thought it had a good reviews as a remake, an American remake. But now I really want to go watch the original one, but I regret also not putting that one on first. But yeah, I'll see it. I think it's on Hulu. So I think if you want to watch The Guilty, the original Danish film, I think it's on Hulu. The American one is a Netflix film, so you could watch that on Netflix. And I think that's it for my review. The Guilty, I don't really recommend it. Like, it's not something I definitely recommend. I guess it's worth a watch. If you have nothing to do, put it on. I think you'll be entertained. If you're really bored, put it on. I think it'll let time a little go by, and I think maybe you'll be a little satisfied. It did that for me. It wasn't big time perfection. I always wish I have something good to spend my 2 hours in. I mean, but this was decent. This wasn't bad, but man, like I said, I really want to watch the original now. The other thing is, yes, it was Bill Burr. It was Bill Burr. I saw the credits. It was Bill Burr. And then I saw Peter Sarsgaard was in it. I think I saw that before and I forgot about it. He plays the husband, which was awesome. And then I see Bill Knapp, and I'm like, wait, I know that actor. I've seen him in the movie before. I remember that name. And I looked it up and I'm like, oh yeah, he's from Southpaw. He's in another film that I saw, or two other ones. Bill Knapp, but I know his face already. And I'm like, that I don't know who he played. And then I saw that Paul Dano was in this film too. And I'm like, what the fuck? Paul Dano's in this film? I'm like, shit. And I'm like, who was he? And it turns out he was the guy at the beginning, I think. The guy with the whole prostitute or hooker situation that's trying to rob him. And I actually thought he was another guy that got hurt on a bike that was complaining like, my knee's messed up. And this guy straight out told him, he's like, get an Uber and tell him to take you to the hospital. Your freaking knee? He's like, next time don't be driving the bike drunk or something like that. And that's what I'm telling you. There's some humor in this film, which I enjoyed. But yeah, these actors are all in it. Antoine Fuqua directed it. And then I think Nick Pizzolatto from True Detective, he's the writer of True Detective, was the writer in here. But then I'm like, damn, I thought he's a great writer for True Detective and all that. And I'm like, I don't know, I expected more from someone like him, since he's known from True Detective, a really good like type of storytelling type of thing. But right here, I don't know. But it was Nick Pizzolatto who actually wrote this. I'm not sure. I don't remember if I saw it was co-written with someone. But Nick Pizzolatto, True Detective, Antoine Fuqua, amazing. Ethan Hawke, I think, is also in here. I think he plays someone in here. Ethan Hawke, Antoine Fuqua is known to be the director of the awesome, the classic film, Training Day with Denzel Washington and Ethan Hawke. He also used Ethan Hawke in Brooklyn's Finest, so that was cool. He had some pretty cool actors in the background that I didn't even know. It wasn't just Jake Gyllenhaal. That was the A-list star here, man. There was other A-list stars in the other end of the phone. So yeah, but like I said, it's worth the watch. Not like a definite recommend. Worth the watch if you have nothing to do, you want to kill time and all that. And that's my review on Antoine Fuqua's The Guilty. If you enjoyed my video, please hit that like button and subscribe. And as always, thank you for watching.